The compatibility test result glowed on my wristband. 99% match with Julian Kessler, Alpha. My heart stopped, then raced. As I stood in the crowded San Francisco plaza, neon lights flickering above. Everyone said a 99% match was fate. Undeniable, unbreakable, the kind of love that rewrote your life. But Julian Kessler didn't even know my name. I'm Riley Parker, 25, non-binary, a graphic designer scraping by in a city that chewed up dreamers like me. I'd spent years dodging the test, that mandatory algorithm that paired people based on some mysterious mix of biology, psychology, and data no one fully understood. When I finally caved and got scanned, the result hit like a freight train. Julian, the city's golden boy, a 28-year-old cisgender man, broad-shouldered, with a jawline that could cut glass and a tech empire that made him untouchable. He was the kind of alpha who walked into a room and owned it, his charm a gravitational pull. I'd seen him at galas I catered to pay my rent, his laugh echoing as he mingled with elites, never glancing my way. I clutched the wristband, its holographic display pulsing faintly. The test was law in 2045. Matches above 90% were expected to connect, to build the perfect society. But Julian hadn't messaged me. No call, no glance, nothing. I was a ghost to my supposed destiny. That night, I wandered into a dive bar in the Mission District, the kind with sticky floors and a jukebox stuck on 80s hits. My best friend, Mara, a 26-year-old cis woman with a knack for brutal honesty, slid a beer my way. "Riley, you're pining over a guy who doesn't know you exist," she said, her brown eyes sharp. "A 99% match doesn't mean he's your soulmate. It means the algorithm thinks you'd make cute babies or some nonsense." I laughed, but it stung. What am I supposed to do? Show up at his penthouse and demand he love me? Mara smirked. Or you could move on. Like, say, to someone who actually sees you. Her words lingered as I left the bar, the fog rolling in off the bay. I walked past murals of queer icons, their painted faces bold under streetlights. San Francisco was a haven for people like me, but it still felt lonely when your perfect match was a stranger. I pulled up Julian's profile on my wristband, scrolling through his curated life. Charity events, tech summits, a smile that promised everything. I sent a message, short, polite, a nudge to the universe. "Hi, I'm Riley. Looks like we're a 99% match. Want to talk?" No response. Not that night nor the next. By day 3, I felt like a fool. That's when I met Sage Navarro. It was at a hackathon in Oakland, a chaotic warehouse event where coders and artists collided to build something revolutionary in 48 hours. I was there to design visuals for a Teams app, my sketchpad open, when Sage walked in. She was 27, a trans woman with jet black hair cascading past her shoulders, her presence sharp and electric. She wore a leather jacket over a pastel blue dress, a paradox of soft and fierce. Her reputation preceded her. A coding prodigy who dropped out of MIT, now a freelance genius who fixed systems no one else could. People called her cold, unapproachable. They said she turned down every match the test gave her, even the high 90s. Our eyes met across the room. She was presenting her project, a neural network that could predict climate shifts with eerie precision. Her voice was low, confident, but there was a flicker of something, loneliness, maybe, in her dark eyes. Couldn't look away. "Nice designs," she said later, appearing at my table with a coffee in hand. Her voice was velvet, but her gaze was a challenge. "You're Riley, right? I saw your portfolio online. Bold stuff." I blinked, caught off guard. Thanks. You're Sage, the coding wizard." She laughed, a sound that felt like a secret. Wizard, huh? I'll take it. We talked for hours, the hackathon fading into background noise. Sage was sharp, witty, but guarded, like she was waiting for me to prove I wasn't worth her time. I told her about my art, my love for old sci-fi novels, and, impulsively, about Julian. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes softened. A 99% match, huh? She said, leaning back. Sounds like a lot of pressure. It's a lot of nothing, I admitted. He hasn't even replied. Sage tilted her head, studying me. Maybe he's not the one you're meant to find. Her words hit harder than I expected. We worked together through the night, our ideas syncing effortlessly. My visuals, her code, a dance of creation. By dawn, our team's app won the hackathon, and Sage's hand brushed mine as we high-fived. My pulse raced not from the win, but from her. Over the next week, I couldn't shake her. We texted, met for coffee, then late-night walks by the Embarcadero. Sage was a puzzle, brilliant, guarded, but warm when she let her walls down. She told me about her childhood in New Mexico, how she transitioned at 19 despite a family that didn't understand. I built my own world, she said one night, staring at the bay. No algorithm gets to tell me who I am. I envied her certainty. My wristband still glowed with Julian's name, a reminder of a destiny I couldn't claim. I checked it obsessively, hoping for a reply, but there was nothing. Meanwhile, Sage was real, here, her laughter filling the gaps Julian left. One evening, we ended up at a rooftop party in Soma, the city sprawling below us. Sage looked stunning, her dress catching the light as she leaned against the railing. "Why do you keep checking that thing?" she asked, nodding at my wristband. Her tone wasn't jealous, just curious. I sighed. I don't know. It's like if I let go of the 99%, I'm giving up on something bigger. She stepped closer, her eyes locking onto mine. Or maybe you're holding onto the wrong thing. My breath caught. The air between us crackled, and for a moment, I forgot Julian, the test, everything. Then my wristband buzzed. A message. From him. "Hey Riley, sorry for the delay. Let's meet. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., the observatory." My heart lurched. Sage saw my face and stepped back, her expression unreadable. "Go," she said softly. "You need to know." I nodded, but as I left the rooftop, her voice echoed in my mind. Was I chasing a dream or running from something real? The observatory was a sleek rooftop bar in Nob Hill, all glass and steel, with a view that made San Francisco feel like a galaxy. I wore my best outfit, a tailored blazer over a soft gray shirt, my auburn hair swept back to look effortlessly confident. Inside, I was a mess. Julian Kessler was my 99% match, and tonight, I'd finally meet him. He was already there, leaning against the bar, his navy suit impeccable. Up close, he was even more striking tall, with warm brown eyes and a smile that felt like a spotlight. "Riley?" he said, extending a hand. His voice was smooth, like he'd practiced this moment. "Sorry about the wait. Life's been chaotic." I shook his hand, my nerves sparking. "No worries. I'm just glad we're here." We sat by a window, the city glittering below. Julian was charming, asking about my art, my life, with a focus that felt intoxicating. But something was off. His questions were polite, calculated, like he was checking boxes. When I mentioned the test, he laughed lightly. "Yeah, 99% is wild, right? The algorithm's intense." "Intense?" I echoed, searching his face. "So what do you think about it?" "Us." He leaned back, sipping his drink. I think it's a lot of pressure. I mean, I'm running a company, traveling constantly. A match like this, it's a big commitment. My stomach sank. He wasn't saying no, but he wasn't saying yes either. The conversation shifted to his work, AI breakthroughs, investor meetings, and I felt like an audience, not a partner. By the end of the night, he promised to text, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. I left feeling smaller than when I'd arrived. The next day, I met Sage at a queer bookstore in the Castro. She was flipping through a poetry collection, her fingers tracing the pages with care. "So, how was Prince Charming?" she asked, not looking up. I slumped into a chair. "He's perfect, and completely unavailable." Sage's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "Sounds like a 99% match to me." I laughed, but it hurt. "He's everything the test promised, successful, charming. But it's like he's already married to his life." She closed the book, her eyes meeting mine. "Maybe the test doesn't know you as well as you think." We spent the afternoon wandering the city, from rainbow crosswalks to a hidden taco stand in the Mission. Sage was different from Julian, present, raw, her sarcasm laced with warmth. When she talked about her work, it wasn't to impress. It was to share. I told her about my childhood in Oregon, how I'd come out as non-binary at 20 and moved here to find myself. She listened, really listened, and it felt like coming home. But Julian lingered in my mind. He texted later that week, inviting me to a gala at his company's headquarters in Silicon Valley. "Bring your art," he wrote. "I'd love to see it." My heart leapt. Maybe he was opening up. Maybe the 99% was real. The gala was a whirlwind of wealth. Crystal chandeliers, tech moguls, and Julian at the center, commanding the room. I brought a portfolio of my designs, nervous but hopeful. He introduced me to colleagues, calling me the artist with the 99% match, which got laughs but felt like a label, not a connection. When I showed him my work, he nodded, impressed, but his phone buzzed, and he excused himself. I stood there, portfolio in hand, invisible again. Sage called as I left, her voice a lifeline. "How's the fairy tale going?" "He's a dream," I said, "but I'm not in it." There was a pause. "Come over," she said. "I'm coding something new. You'll like it." Her apartment in Oakland was a chaos of monitors and sticky notes, but it felt alive. She showed me a program she'd built, a virtual gallery where artists could showcase their work in 3D. "I thought of you," she said, her voice soft. "Your designs deserve to be seen." I stared at the screen, my art rendered in vivid detail. "You did this for me?" She shrugged, but her cheeks flushed. "Maybe." We sat on her couch, the city humming outside. Our shoulders brushed, and I felt it again, that spark, stronger than anything I'd felt with Julian. But my wristband buzzed. Another message from him. "Had fun tonight. Let's do it again soon." I stared at the words, torn. Sage was real, but Julian was my destiny. Or so the algorithm said. The weeks blurred together, a tug-of-war between Julian's fleeting attention and Sage's steady presence. Julian invited me to more events, dinners, product launches, but each felt like a performance. He was charming, attentive for moments, then gone, pulled away by his world. I kept chasing the 99%, convincing myself it would click. Meanwhile, Sage and I grew closer, our late-night talks turning into something deeper, something I couldn't name. One night, at a queer art show in the Mission, Sage and I stood before a painting of two figures embracing, their forms blending into a vibrant swirl. "That's us," she joked, nudging me. Her hand lingered on my arm, and I didn't pull away. Why do you keep saying no to the test? I asked, curious. You could have anyone. She looked at the painting, her expression distant. The test told me who I was supposed to be before I knew myself. I'd rather choose my own path. Her words hit me hard. I'd been letting the test define me, chasing a number instead of listening to my heart. But Julian's messages kept coming, each one a tether to that 99% dream. Then came the night that changed everything. Julian invited me to a private dinner at his penthouse in Pacific Heights. It was intimate, just us, with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge glowing in the fog. He was different that night, present, vulnerable, telling me about his fears of failing his company, his legacy. You get me, Riley, he said, his hand brushing mine. The test was right about that. My heart soared. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. We kissed, and it was electric, everything I'd imagined. But as we pulled apart, his phone rang, and he answered, his face shifting back to business. I have to take this, he said, stepping away. I sat there, alone, the city lights mocking me. I left without saying goodbye. On the train back to Oakland, I texted Sage. Can I see you? Her reply was instant. Always. At her apartment, I broke down, telling her everything. The kiss, the hope, the emptiness. She listened, her eyes steady, then pulled me into a hug. You deserve someone who sees you, Riley, she whispered. Not just when it's convenient. I looked at her, really looked, and saw what I'd been ignoring. Sage was my match, not because of an algorithm, but because she chose me. I leaned in, and we kissed, slow and certain, like the world had finally aligned. But the next morning, Julian called. I'm sorry about last night, he said. I want to make this work. Come to New York with me next week. I'm keynoting a conference, and I want you there. I froze, Sage's kiss still burning on my lips. I need to think about it, I said. His voice softened. Don't give up on us, Riley. 99% means something. I hung up, my head spinning. Sage was in the kitchen, humming as she made coffee, oblivious to the storm inside me. I had a choice. The destiny I'd been chasing, or the love I'd found. I said yes to Julian. It felt like betraying Sage, but the 99% was a siren song I couldn't ignore. New York was a whirlwind, skyscrapers, flashing lights, Julian's world swallowing me whole. He was magnetic, introducing me to investors as my match, his arm around me like a claim. But at the conference, he was swept away by meetings, leaving me to wander the hotel alone, clutching my wristband like a lifeline. Sage texted me daily, small things, a meme, a coding joke, a photo of the bay at sunrise. Each one felt like a tether to home. I replied, but my words were guarded, torn between guilt and hope. Julian and I had moments, late-night talks, stolen kisses, but they were fleeting, overshadowed by his ambition. I started to see it. He loved the idea of me, the 99%, but not the real me. One night, alone in my hotel room, I called Sage. I miss you, I said, my voice breaking. She was quiet for a moment. Then come back, Riley. I'm here. I returned to San Francisco, my heart a battlefield. Sage met me at the airport, her smile soft but cautious. We drove to Ocean Beach, the waves crashing under a gray sky. I can't keep doing this, she said, her voice steady but raw. I'm falling for you, but I won't be your second choice. Her words cut deep. I wanted to tell her she wasn't, that she was everything, but Julian's promise lingered. I need time, I said, hating myself. She nodded, her eyes glistening. Take it. But don't expect me to wait forever. Back home, I threw myself into my art, designing a series inspired by Sage. Vibrant, chaotic, alive. I showed them at a local gallery, and she came, standing quietly among the crowd. Our eyes met, and I knew I'd made a mistake chasing Julian. But before I could speak, my wristband buzzed. Julian was back in town asking to meet. We met at a cafe in the Haight, and he was different, focused, earnest. "I've been thinking," he said. "I want to try, really try. Move in with me. Let's build something." I stared at him, the man I'd dreamed of, offering me the life the test promised. But all I could think of was Sage. Her laugh, her touch, the way she saw me. "I can't," I said, my voice steady. "I'm in love with someone else." His face fell, but he nodded. "The test isn't everything," he said. "I hope you find what you're looking for." I left the cafe, my heart pounding, and ran to Sage's apartment. She opened the door, surprise flickering in her eyes. "I choose you," I said, breathless. "I'm done with the test. I want us." She studied me, then smiled, pulling me into her arms. "Took you long enough," she whispered. Sage and I built a life together, messy and real. We moved into a loft in the Mission, our days filled with art and code, laughter and late-night talks. The test faded, a relic of a life I no longer needed. My wristband sat in a drawer, its glow dimmed, Julian's name just a memory. But the world wasn't done with us. The test creators rolled out a new update, claiming it could recalibrate matches for those who'd strayed. Flyers plastered the city. "Find your true destiny." I ignored them, but the pressure was everywhere. Ads, news, even Mara teasing me about retesting for fun. One day, Sage found me staring at my wristband. "You okay?" she asked, her voice gentle. I nodded, but doubt crept in. What if the test was right? What if I'd thrown away something bigger? I pushed the thoughts away, focusing on Sage, on us, but they lingered, a quiet poison. Then came the protest. A group of queer activists, including Mara, organized a march against the test, calling it a tool of control. Sage and I joined, our hands linked as we chanted through the streets. The crowd was electric, signs reading "Love is our choice and no algorithm defines us." But counter-protesters gathered, shouting about tradition, about destiny. Tensions rose, and when a fight broke out, Sage pulled me to safety, her grip fierce. "We're more than their numbers," she said, her eyes blazing. "You know that, right?" I did. But that night, alone, I activated my wristband. The screen flickered, then displayed a new match. Sage Navarro, 92%. I laughed, tears stinging my eyes. The algorithm was catching up to my heart. At the next protest, I spoke, my voice shaking but clear. I spent years chasing a 99% match, thinking it was my destiny. But love isn't a number. It's the person who sees you, who chooses you, every day. Sage stood in the crowd, her smile brighter than the sun. We didn't need the test to tell us who we were. We'd built our own world, one where love was a choice, not a mandate. As we walked home, hand in hand, the city alive around us, I knew I'd found my true match. Not because of an algorithm, but because of us.